Okay, so the last thing I want to show you that has to do with CSS and styling is called a responsive web design. So right now you've pretty much been designing for a PC, so a view like that. You haven't been designing for a phone or an iPad. And it gets tricky because you can look at your phone in portrait and then you turn it and then it turns landscape. You can look at a phone, or I'm sorry, you can look at an iPad portrait and then you turn it and then you look at it landscape. There are different phone sizes, and this is where web design, front end design gets like to be a pain in the butt. We're just going to keep it simple. Okay, I just want to show you that it's out there and we're going to keep it really simple. But let me show you what it looks like. So pay attention, my background is red. And if I shrink it, it turns yellow. So depending upon the size, so that's probably iPad size, okay, and PC size, it stays red. So I just adjusted it for phone size. Shrink it all the way down. This thing's being a little clunky. Shrink it all the way down, and I get yellow. So let me show you how to put that together. Okay, first up, you got to put this code in between your head tags right here. And for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to drop it in the assignment and you can copy and paste it over. But basically, meta tags tell the browser, I want you to do stuff before you have it like apply the HTML and stuff like that. It's like, hey, just as an aside, I want you to do this, this, and this. It's behind the scenes and all that stuff. Hopefully someday they get it to where you don't have to do this, because it's kind of redundant. But right now you have to do it. So the viewport is what you're looking at. And the viewport is basically if you're on a phone, if you're on an iPad, it's whatever size. Okay, so that's the viewport. And what you want it to do is you want it to take up the entire viewport. So you just say scale 1.0. It seems like something that the browser should just do on its own, but we'll see what happens when Google and all these other companies update their browser. Now, there is something you could do. You can make a responsive web design. It's almost like you're coding the CSS all over again. And you got to turn stuff off and you got to turn stuff on. So like right now it's turned on that my background is red. If I want to turn that off and make it yellow, I got to turn off the red and turn on the yellow. So you have to be specific. When phone moves in direction, do this, okay? So, if you were to go more and then pull this up, like look on phone before you apply all this stuff, you're just going to see your normal background. If you apply the responsive web design, you're going to see the background change on your phone, or at least you should see it depending upon the size of your phone. So sometimes what happens if you've designed an entire site and you have a lot of CSS code, sometimes you can put in a totally separate style sheet and the browser will read the instructions in both style sheets and apply it depending upon if you're on a phone or if you're on a PC. So it'd just be like a recopying of this, and instead of, style, I've named them responsive.css. That way I can tell the difference between which one's the phone and which one's PC or, PC size screen. We're just going to keep it simple. So we're just going to do one style sheet. So one of the reasons you want a responsive design is you on the server side, if you wanted your customers to look at the website on the phone, you'd have to program an entirely different website and then code on the server if phone send this site, if not phone send, it's a mess. It's a mess. So you can actually code this in the CSS. And the way to do it, it's called a media query. And media queries do a ton of different stuff. And so you go at media, and you want to do minimum width. So min width. So you're going to want to set the pixel size to 400, and so 400 is basically phone size. iPad size is maybe 600. So what you're saying is when the minimum width is this, I want you to change the CSS. That's what you're telling the computer or the browser. You can set it to, you could create a totally different style sheet or a totally different set right here and set it to 600. So you not only have PC or PC size window, you have tablet, let's not just say iPad, and you have cell phone width. So you'd have to do this like at a different time, but we're just going to do it for cell phones. Now, here's the thing that gets a little tricky. Okay. You do the brackets. Okay, give yourself some room. You do the brackets, but you never change these. So once you set this, you almost have to ignore it, because what you have to do is, if you want to style against the body, you have to set up another set of brackets like this. So it's almost like this bottom bracket right here. Once you have it, like, ignore it, okay? And then whatever CSS you have to change has to take place in here. So if I want, say, background color, so I'm going from, let's say, red, I'm going to set it to blue. All right, so I sort of messed up. I don't want min width, I want max. That makes more sense. So when the maximum width of your screen is 400 pixels, this is going to change color. So my initial color, all the way up to the top, is yellow. Okay, scroll all the way down, and I'm going to change it to blue. I think I reloaded. Move this. Whoops. Computer's being laggy. There's blue. Yellow at full screen. Blue when I shrink it. Okay, I know it works. And like I said, when I get the CSS up and going, I always change the background color. It's a very simple change to make. And there you go. So one thing you want to do is on a website, and you could choose to do this on your regular site, it just looks cleaner, is setting the margins to 0. So let's take a look. So it stays put, I shrink it, and it fits to the screen. And honestly, your site will look cleaner if you do that to begin with. It just, I don't know, it just looks better. So we can see it go back and forth. So you see how there's no margin there. The browser by default gives it a margin, so you kind of have to tell it no margin. Okay, so like I said, ignore this bracket down here because that matches up with this one up here. So we just want to make sure we have it there, but forget it exists. Now what you want to do is you want to go up to all of your grid code. So I have it from line 6 to, let's see, I have it from 6 to 4, or I'm sorry, 6 to, I don't know, what is that, 60. There we go. All right, so I'm going to copy all this, okay, because what I have is I have grid code that is set something, okay, and I want to turn off all of those settings and apply new settings to it. So I copy, and do I have 6, 5, 6? Oh, I got more than that. Oh, messed that up. Here we go. All right, so I'm going to start over. Got to be careful when you copy paste. Make sure you get it all. There we go. Control C. And let's see. And you want to paste it. You want to make sure you don't paste below that. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Control V. And again, so let's see. Yep, There it is right there. So this one matches that one. So, you know, maybe you can put in like a little note. So /, oops, no CSS below this line. There you go. You can code that in there. Okay, I'm going to take out a lot of the bells and whistles. And, you know, you probably have your column code. I'm going to move these down just for the sake of like reading. So Control X, Control V. So this is the column. And this is the cat picture. You have these settings and they work. Now, here's what you want to do. I'm going to get rid of this mess right here, the background image. And what's going to happen is when I get rid of this and I shrink, this is going to disappear. So let's see if that's true. See if I did that right. And I shrink, and okay, that's still there. Okay, so there's probably a setting to like turn it off. So I have to like change the background image to like nothing or something like that. And I'm keeping that, and I have the body. Okay, so I have my code set to this right here. Repeat, da 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 da. I want to set this, so you can set it to auto, but you're just going to do one column, okay? You just want one column. That's it. Now you could do auto, or if you set it to 400 pixels, or you may need to go to 399, we'll try 400. Oops. If you set it to 400 pixels, you get the effect that you want. So if you go to, say, grid template rows, all your rows are consistent. But what you want to do is, since there's only one column, you change all this. You change all your columns to 1. So this goes grid row 4. Okay. Row 2 to 4. And you may need to increase the amount of rows. So if that goes 2 to 4, that should be a 5. How many rows do I have set up? I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which means I can go up to 7. So I'll make this 5. This is set to 6, and I want section 6 to go to 7. I reload, and I shrink-a-dink. Now, the stuff could overrun itself, so let's take a look. Oh, that's right. I have 1, and then I have these both set to 4. I don't want that. So if this section 3 spans between 2 and 4, I'm going to have to shift that over to 5 and 7. Okay. And if I go to 7, I want to go to 8. And if I go to 8, I want to go to 9. And if I want to go to 9, I got to go to 10. Okay. And then scroll back up. And I only have 7. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make them auto. And really, you can set all of your rows to auto. You don't need to set them to pixels if you don't want to, but initially set them all to auto. You're going to probably want them all to auto because you want to see how your pictures behave and all that stuff behaves on mobile. And then you can start maybe specifying how many pixels you want done. So if you have a picture that you need to shrink the length, okay, so the up and down, the vertical, and that's set to say 400 pixels, you probably want to set the size of the box to 400 pixels. So these are adjustments you make, but you want to get your skeletal structure, your grid, you want to get that completely taken care of. And I'm going to shrink the grid gap. I'm going to shrink it to like 5. And that may mess up your background, but you can get rid of your background or increase the grid gap, because you don't want your users to have to scroll down crazy far to see all your content. So let's take a look. So there's my section 2, there's my form, there's a little bit of grid gap in there, section 4, that goes on forever, but see how it overruns? Okay, now part of the reason this overruns is because of my columns. Remember I set it to 4, I'm probably going to want to set that to 2, okay? And all of my kitties from the previous in here, so I'm not going to have that in my section. I'm not going to, so here's my section 4. I probably want to move some of my kitties, okay, to section 5. So down here, and I commented that out. So instead of having in one grid box your 4 cats, what you want to do is spread those out over 2 grid boxes. So you have 1, 2 straight across, new grid box, 3, 4 straight across. And I mean, you can mess with that to your heart's content. But if you take a look, spread this guy out, see? So I get this. So let me show you full screen here. So here's full screen, and I'm going to minimize. And you got a shrinky dink. Let me shrink it ink. Okay, so this isn't working, and one of the reasons why it may not be working is I didn't set my pixels correctly. So it could be that the browser window doesn't shrink down to 400. So I'm going to set this to 600. And don't ever set your responsive, your app media to 600. I'm just showing you this so you can see full screen, because your users are going to shrink a window, but you don't really want to like spend time accommodating users who shrink their window. Like, that's just a level of design that's just out of hand. So I'm going to shrink the browser, and that's still not working. Okay, it could be that there's some code that should only work on mobile, and that's not problematic. Did I reload it? Let's see. Reload. Did I reload this one? Maybe that's it. Forgot to reload this one. There it is, right there. And you can see I have room to move this box. I have room to move my boxes over. Okay, and there are my cat pictures and all of that stuff. And so I got it working at 600 pixels. I spread it out, it changes design. And again, so this spilled out of section 4, okay? And like I said, I'm working with 2 columns. Okay, so I probably want to like shift stuff over, shift my boxes over, stuff like that. So try your responsive design. I'm not looking for you. I mean, if you really want to go after it and put your kitties or whatever you did here into a different grid box, that's fine. You don't have to go crazy on that one. But at least get it to where you can get your boxes to line up. And there you are.